in the previous tutorial video. So we had reached a place where in our application we can be able to create a question. And then after creating the question, we were able to submit. But even though what we were submitting now was just hitting the store method, but then we were not saving. So this is what we had. So when we click on questions, we were creating the question and we were asking a question here, and we were being allowed to type in our answers. And I'm just writing just something inside there. And then of course, once we fill in the fourth answer, when we submit, then we had the data being submitted to the store method of our controller. But now you see the problem is, for however many times the submit button is hit, we will still be able to submit this data. So what we will need to do eventually, we will need to reset this form of ours after we have been able to submit a question. But let us first of all go to our question controller, the store method, and then we first of all save, and then we will come back and make amendments on that part. So let me just scroll here to question controller, and probably I can be able to extend it, and we can also be able to close the terminal. And remember, I'm running npm run dev, I'm running php artisan serve, and I'm also ensuring that I'm running my database. So let us go ahead and save our question. So I want us to just save this request all to a variable. So I'm going to say request data, and we are just going to save whatever data is in request all, like that. After that, I would like us to now be able to look into it and get the question, and this is what you're going to do. So for us to get the question, we are going to check inside the request data, and we are going to check for a key called question, like that. And after that, then we can be able to go ahead and save this question. So we are saving it to the database, and I'm just going to say new question. We are going to use eloquent, so I'm going to write new question model. This is the question model, the one that will be able to assist us to insert. So in other words, we are creating a new record, and then I will also say new question. It should be singular. New question, and what the value that we want to fill in our database. New question, and in our database we have a column called question, and here I want us to just fill in whatever it is that you would have picked here in this variable. So we are going to have question, like that, and then obviously we will now say new question save, because we only have one thing there. Now according to how it is, this will enable us to save our question, And then I also want us to be able to get the answers. So in a similar way, we are going to get the answers. And this is going to be set to request data again. And then we are checking for the key answers. But remember, we have 4 answers. So in this case, we are going to loop over the answers. So in this case, I'm going to say for each, and we will say answers. So in whatever it is that is stored here, so answers in as answer like that. And then we are now going to be able to work on each of them. So I'm going to say new answer will be set to to the model, a new instance of the answer model. And I'm not sure if we have imported it above here. For the question, I'm sure, because we created, yes, we have app models question, and we also need use app models, and then answer like that. So that is fine. And so that will enable us to be able to save a new instance of an answer to our database. So new answer. So we have a field in our database that is called answer. Maybe it is proper for me to just go ahead and show you, because we created it in one of the tutorials, but just to refresh what we did. Or you click on this one to just show us what we had done previously. And so our database was called quiz application. And as you can see, for the questions, we only have one column that we are supposed to do something about, and it is called question. These others are created at and updated at, and ID, those ones will be set by Laravel by default. Also for the answers, we need the answer, question ID, correct answer. This one needs to have a value of 1 or 0. So again, for this one, you're going to be able to create 3 things, and then the others can be done for us automatically. So new answer, and in this case, I'm just going to have it as answer. Remember, we are looping through answers, and we are saving each loop or each section of the values that you are getting to a variable called answer. So in this case, inside answer, we have the 3 things. We have the answer, and we have whether it's correct or not. But of course, every other thing, the ID of the answer will be set automatically by the Laravel application, and also we can also be able to create the question ID. You just pick the ID of this question here. So we are going to say answer. Remember, in our data, the data that we were submitting, we were having one of the things that we created in our front end was something that we called answer. So that is what we are sort of like returning. So then we also need the question ID. So I will write here new answer, just in the same variable. Then we have question underscore ID, and this one is going to be set to we're just going to pick our new question, this one here, and we will pick the ID. So I will just write new question. So the question that was created here, we are going to get its ID. So new question ID, like that. That will be perfect. And then we also have the correct answer. So new answer. And in our database, we have a field called correct underscore answer, like that. And this one we are going to have it as answer, and then we are going to check for the correct underscore answer, like that. So after that, I think everything is fine. We need to save this answer. So in this case, I'm going to say new answer, save, like that. And that will be able to effectively save for us our answer. And now I want us to go ahead and return a response to our user and tell them something has happened. In other words, we have been able to save we have been able to save the user. So I mean the questions and the answers, sorry. So I'm going to write return redirect, and we are going to redirect to questions, and then we are going to say with, and as you can see, I'm just doing typically what you would do in Laravel, the way we return flash messaging, so success. But I will have to do a tweak in Inertia for us to be able to handle this properly. So in this case, I'm going to just write question and answer, question and answer created successfully. But I think it is question and answers, plural, because we're having 4 answers in this case according to what we have set. And I think that is that. I will be able to close this with a semicolon, and then we will have to do something with Inertia because this success is not known what it is. So let us go to Inertia, and I mean to the Inertia middleware, and be able to do something about that. So the Inertia middleware is found in HTTP middleware, and then we have handle inertia requests, and inside here I want us to pass to include under share, because we have this place where we have share and we have an array merge. Of course, I'm going to pass here our flash messaging, and remember, whatever it is that is passed here is usually accessible anywhere within our application front end, so we can be able to call it anywhere and be able to use it. So I want us to name it flash, and so here we will have the success flash messages, and we also have the error flash messages, and so on and so forth. But in this case, I just want to put 1, which is success, and then I would like to just, maybe I can put a little bit more. Let us have success. So the first one, we are going to call it success, and this means our request has been accepted successfully. So in this case, we can have an arrow function, and we can say request session. So we will be reading the session. Whatever it is that I have done here, I've been able to send this success to session. So we want Inertia to read anything that has a key of success, then it will be handled by this method and be able to be pushed to the front end. So session get, and in this case we are going to say success like that. And I want to just, if everything is fine with that, I just want to copy it several times, and we will separate each one of them by a comma. So a comma, then another one, then another one. Maybe we have success, we have another one called info, and so here we will be getting from session an alert, or in other words a flash message with info as the key. Then of course we can also have error, and here we will have error like that. So if we return with success, it will be able to be captured. If we return with info, it will be captured. If we return with error, that one will also be captured. But of course I'm only going to limit myself to whatever it is that we are doing right now. So I think everything is fine here. If all goes well, we can hopefully be able to save this payload that you'll be getting from the front end. And I want to just go ahead and do something in our, I think the best place to be able to put these flash message will be inside the model that we are working with. So I have opened the new question model. I want to scroll up. As you can see, we are having slots, and we have the slots for header, for body, and slot for footer, the named slot. So this is slot name footer, slot named body, and slot named header, something of that sort. So inside the header, I would like to duplicate this one and I just want to add another one here, and I want to call it or maybe we can put it on its own. Let us just have it here. Let us call it the name of this slot, let us call it success. And then for errors we'll be able to have, and then also for info if we reach at a point in this tutorial where we require to use that. So now we have a slot named success, and remember when in our and the default we can say default success, but this you remain default if we do not pass anything here. But in this case we will actually pass something here, and I just want us to go to question.view, and in the place where we are having that model being operationalized, so here we have the answers and we have add new question. I think below here I can be able to pass in another template which I'm going to call or under the template header, because it is the same thing that we are having. I can be able to pass the flash messaging here just below here, and for us to be able to do that we will have a div and in this case, this div, you have a class of success. So in this case, alert and alert success. So if we save it and we check the question, we will automatically see that there is something that we already have here. But the problem is I have not been able to give it a name because it is still under header. I think probably I will have to move it on its own template such that it renders perfectly. So I'm going to cut this and leave the header alone, and after that I want to create another template which I'm going to call success. So let me just create a template here, and I'm going to have it as success. So you click here and have it as success like that, and inside here I'm going to paste our alert. But remember, now we have done some, I think I've left something here. I can remove it and put it here, maybe there. And remember, we have changed something, so I will go back to new question model, and this slot that we have called success, I want to move it within its own sort of like div or something. Let me see first of all how it presents. So when I click on create, yes, it is somewhere on the sides, but let me give it something. Let me give it some text. We see where it is going to display. So I will type in success message, something of that sort, and as you can see, it is displaying it here. If it is displayed here, but I think it could be a problem. Let me remove it from here and just give its own div. So we are going to have the new question model, and we are going to probably, let me just move it. Let me just remove it from here. Instead of putting it in the header, let me put it in the body. So it will be there. So in the body we have two slots, success and body. And then now you see, it's displaying nicely. So this is where the message will be displaying, and I think that one is perfect. So now of course we will not be able to just show it throughout. I want us to pick the success, in other words, the success prop from that comes from our from Inertia, in this case from the front end, and then I want to use it somewhere here. So let us go ahead and see how we can be able to do that. And I want to in this case import a helper that is called use page, and this one is from Inertia. So import, in this case, use page from Inertia, and then we are going to initialize it. So I'm going to say, after we import it, I'm going to say const page, is equals to use page, like that. And then obviously we are going to use it to be able now to access our success. So in this case, I'm going to access the success as follows. So I'm just going to set this constant to success, and we are going to use a computed property. I do not know if we have imported computed here. We don't have, so also import computed. And in this case, computed is from view. Computed from view, like that. Then now here we are going to use it as follows. So we are going to have computed we're going to have it as a computed property. Then we will use the arrow function, and then we can be able to just look for page dot props, and then remember there is a key that we had set called flash, and then success. So this will effectively help us to access the success alert, or in other words, the session message that was set in Laravel, for us to be able to use it in our template. So now we are going to go ahead and display the success, and this is what we are going to do. So I will go to the place where we had that success message, because we had done something about it already. Success, where is it? A little bit up. Yes, where we're having this alert, and I'm going to render it conditionally. So if success has a value, because sometimes you will find there is nothing, so I'm going to say v if success. In this case, it will check and see if success has a value. If it has a value, it will be displayed. If it doesn't have a value, it will not be displayed. So in this case, the green success div will not be displayed throughout. And then now we will go ahead and be able to display our success message. So I'll use 2 double curly braces, and just instead of having success message, because we have named it success, we just have it like that. You call it success. So let us go ahead and check. And so when I click on create, and the default is being displayed, so probably I can just go ahead and remove that default message, because now this other one is not being displayed. So I'll just remove this one, and we just have the slot like that without a default value. As you can see, so it is displayed, but it is not being shown. And then now we have our question. So what should I ask? Maybe who created Laravel? We have a question mark. Then we are going to have answers. The first answer, Taylor Otwell. The second answer, for purposes of being ambiguous, let me just put some names here. Bernard, Chess. Another one, George, Kamau, and another one maybe Albert. stan, like that. And so the next thing, of course, I will do, because we have the radio buttons here, I have to maybe check one which is correct. And once I do that, because some of these things we were able to go through yesterday, so then I can go ahead and submit. As you can see, it is loading. You can see question created successfully. So it seems as if when we check our database, we will see answers. So let me refresh and see. Do we have anything? Very nice. We have the answers, and only one of them is correct. And then we have the question ID, and then the answers that I've typed in right now. Of course, created it and updated it, and then we have the IDs of the answers. We didn't need to pass the IDs from the front end because it really defeats the purpose. Laravel can be able to handle everything on the back end. And then I want us to just check questions. And then you can see we have one question. Now, I have issues with our implementation because at the end of everything, we have a problem. And our problem is, if we submit, this thing is going to submit the same answer twice. And so we need to know how we are going to cure that. And so let me just attempt and click here again, submit. Again, it has loaded and it has said submitted again. So when you check, when you refresh now, you can see we have two questions of who created Laravel. So in this case, we are now having a challenge, because now if we are able to have it like that, we need to do some checks both on the back end and on the front end to just check and ensure that only one question is submitted at a time. And if we have a question that looks similar to that, then we can be able to refuse to submit that question once again together with its answers. And I would just like to do something on the side of the front end, and then whatever it is that we require to do on the back end, I will push it to another tutorial video. So I want to go to the function where we are submitting, and what I think I can be able to do where we are posting the questions, what I think we can be able to do, we will just check if we have a success message. And in this case, we are not checking for the session, no. We are checking for Inertia, because Inertia, when it does the submission, it checks whether the response that is given maybe is 200, because if it is 200, then it means everything has gone on well. And then if there are other responses, of course, errors will be returned as props, and then every other thing will be like that. So for us to be able to check and see whether our question has actually been submitted successfully, we can use a helper, and we are going to use a helper called router on success. So we can go ahead and have it like this, router dot on, and here we can say success. So meaning if we have errors, you can also be able to just check like that. And this will be able to enable you to know whether at once our request went through or not. And if it did not go through, then we can be able to do maybe check for the errors and do all that. And of course, up until now, we are not checking for the errors. So that I intend to do in our next tutorial video. And so if we check and we find that actually this request went on successfully, then I want to unset the question and I want to unset the answer values. In this case, currently, even if let me just take you back to the form. even if I have closed that model like that, if I click here, you can still see initially you could still find, let me just check, because this one we refreshed. Let me just write who created again, who created Laravel, and then the answers. So we can say A, let me just do like that to just shorten what I'm doing, and then B, and then C, and then D. Obviously what's going to happen is that when I click submit again, it's going to submit. Okay, and then when I click close, even so, it doesn't mean that the answers are still not there. So you can see they are still there. So this one is a problem. So we have to unset. So in this case, that is what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to check for the created question and set it to null, and I'm also going to check for the new answers, and I'm going to set them to an empty array. Those are the two things that I'm going to do. So created question dot value, and remember, when accessing the refs, when you're accessing it in the script tag, you will always do created question dot value, but when you're accessing it inside our HTML, you just do created question like that. So this one I'm going to set it to null, and then new answers. New answers, remember that array that was being created where all the answers were being put, dot value. This one I'm going to set to an empty array. So once we check and find that our question has been sent successfully, then we can be able to unset these values. Obviously, you should know that whenever you are working with an application, front-end validation is good for the user interface and all that, but it's always advisable to always also set backend validation, such that in the event you have malicious individuals who come to your system and they attempt to do something, still they'll be able to be caught by the backend because you have done double sort of validation. So maybe who created view, that can be another question. And actually I usually confuse that name. There is one of them, I think, I don't know if it's called Edwin, I don't know, sorry man, Edwin you, and then maybe somebody else. This one of course will be the correct answer, and then somebody else, maybe James, and then another name, Yuan, and then maybe another name, Collins, like that. So of course when I submit this one, as you can see, it's submitted and the question and answers have been dropped, so they are not there. So there's nothing to display. So even if somebody is looking for a submit button to click on to be able to resubmit the question, then they cannot be able to do that. And obviously when we go to check for our answers, we find that we also have a question that is asking us who created view. So in our next episode of the tutorial, I want to do a very small episode, and in this case we will just do the server-side validation, and then after that we'll be done. And in this case I will only be validating for the question. I'll be checking if the question is repeated. So if the question is repeated, we will tell the user here, you cannot do that. You cannot type a question that is exactly word for word compared to a question in the database. So if it is matching almost 100%, we will refuse that question and we will not take it. We will say that question is already set in our database. So I would want to just stop here, because I do not want to go so much with this video, because if I continue I might be able to do another long video, but it is not my intention. So thank you very much for following this tutorial video up until this point.